Christine, remember when you were a kid and you thought that your career was going to be this like perfect straight line trajectory?
Oh my, yes. That is not at all what happened. It ended up being way more of a squiggle than I could have ever imagined. And I am so happy that I embraced all of the squiggles along the way.
Welcome back, everybody, to Embrace the Squiggle, the podcast for anyone whose career or life looks nothing like a straight line. And honestly, that's where all the fun stuff happens. We are Colleen
and Christine,
and this is episode 84 with Amanda Wininger. All right, let's get into this. Hi, Amanda. Welcome.
Hi, thank you so much.
Yeah, so excited to have you today. So Amanda had a post on LinkedIn that was about leadership, and and it was like, we had like a third level connection, but it somehow landed in my feed. I commented on it. And then the next day I reached out, was like, can you be on our podcast? I love your take on leadership. And you said yes. So gosh, that was like a few months ago, and it takes us that long to organize all this. So, right. I always think people say things to me like, nobody's ever going to connect on LinkedIn with you if you don't know them or have a conversation. And I'm pointing to my right because
there's proof.
Here,
people.
Right? Here's proof. Here's
proof. Yeah.
Not only is Amanda getting on all with us, she's getting on a podcast with us.
It was such a fun surprise. It was one of those things where like I posted with emotion. I was going through something and was like, you know what? I'm going to spread a gospel. And I have an okay following on LinkedIn, but it's, a couple reactions here and there. That one took off. And I was so grateful when you reached out. A little skeptical too, because again, you get some messages and I was like, is this spot? I am so excited that I'm here to talk about this stuff.
Yeah, so excited. Great. All right. So let's start with little Amanda. So when little Amanda was a kid, what did you think you were going to be when you grew up?
So there were two things. One, I wanted to be a personal assistant. And the other one was I wanted to be a cosmetologist. I wanted to do hair. I wanted to be in salons. I have a big family background of it, and that's where I wanted to be.
Nice. And those are fun jobs, right? When you think about it from a child's perspective, they look like really fun. And as an adult, you're like, those are hard jobs.
Those are hard
from a stamina standpoint.
Yeah, I still laugh at myself when I think back and I'm like, a personal assistant. I think I got that when I, became like a mom and a wife and such. There's like project management and personal assistants involved with that. But yeah, it was two things. I wanted to do hair and I wanted to help people out.
I love that take on being a personal assistant. I love that because I think a lot of people, I talk to. I know I've had conversations around like, this is what I really wanted to do, but society, parents, family pressures made me go in this direction. But what you just showcased is that even though that wasn't your career trajectory, it still shows up in your world.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
Thank you. I also support is like really like a overlaying thing that I hold very dear in my orb. And when I think about the things that I've always done and gravitate to, and I'm sure we'll like get into like the fun stuff I do outside of 9 to 5, support always shows. And it's something I wanted to do when I wanted to be a personal assistant or do hair. It's just being there for somebody who wants you to be there. And that was something that I really followed in everything that I've done, even with the squiggle going everywhere. Its support has always been a big theme. I'm very important to me. It's something I gravitate to.
Is it support or in service?
Probably both. I am very much a Virgo, and that lies in both.
Nice. So tell us about your squiggles. Where did your
Um,
squiggle start?
so Squiggle started, I had to take a grown-up job once upon a time. My husband and I are, living the youngster life in apartments and making, trying to do what we could. And um, I was working in food, and I skipped, I had to skip out on the college experience. My father had a stroke when I was 18, and it was a very, massive, debilitating stroke, and, at the same time, we were also going through an adoption process for, my brother, and he was a baby, so we were going through all these processes, all these things, and so at 18, I just kinda had to really grow up, skip college, go right into wherever that money came from, being working in food or whatever. So, anyways, one day I'm in my 20s and I take a temp job at a title company that's based out of Detroit. And that's it. That's all of a sudden I am working in a company that gave me this beautiful opportunity for years to keep growing in leadership. I started at the bottom and made my way into a leader. I did this for 12 years. I led teams. I worked into like this, again, it's title, it's mortgage. It's not the sexiest of industries, but I'm doing it. And I realized how much I loved being a support for humans and not so much a support for the production. Um, and that took me into the journey of getting into HR, and at the same time, we'll talk COVID, right? That's still definitely a theme in people's lives. So during COVID, I decided that I wanted to become a doula. I felt in my pregnancy for my son, he is now 9. Um, the only thing you have in common with people who are pregnant is that you're pregnant. Everything else is very different. You feel isolated. I didn't feel like I had an advocate, and I didn't understand that I could. I didn't know doulas were really options until I knew. So I took time in COVID to become a doula. I took time in that space to also become a yoga instructor, teach pregnant bodies, teach bodies of all sizes. uh, And I actually still do that to this day. I teach twice a week. I'm getting back into postpartum. And then I do my HR support with it. I own a business now. We do HR consult, and it's just everything is about how can I make somebody feel better, whatever that means, whatever that means.
Well, and Amanda, I mean, so much there. And I think of your LinkedIn post that landed in my feed was you talking about attitude, right? And
Mhm.
that folks saying, right, coming to me like, I want to fire someone because of their attitude. And you're like, okay,
Yeah.
right, let's take this back here.
Yeah.
And just that post instantly showed exactly who you were, right? As a person, of how much the people side is so important to you, and,
Yes.
lifting others up. And so, you moved up pretty quickly in the HR world, right? When you decided to kind of turn into that. And my guess is that was all because of that whole people focus that you have, right? You just naturally want to lift others up.
Yeah. 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 That's probably something I could definitely dig into with my therapist for sure. But yes, you get into, I think us as humans, like we get into these situations where we just want to be our true authentic selves. And, going off of that post, you want to be your true authentic self, and you want to set those boundaries, and you want to say, hey, this is what I need to be successful wherever. If we're talking professional, if we're talking in our, non-professional lives, it's like, this is our boundary. Now, the people you communicate that boundary with, it's very interesting when they perceive your boundary as an attitude instead of being in this world of like, hey, well, let's talk about it. Let's find the compromise. There doesn't seem to be a compromise. It seems to be, she said no. they didn't hear no and they heard no. And yeah, it's very interesting how boundaries get perceived as attitude or truth. I'm speaking my truth. I'm telling you that this project that you're giving me is a little bit too much. I'm not saying no, but I'm saying this is a little bit too much. How can we help? How can you help me be successful? And you get a lot of people out there that are just heard no, I'm not doing it. And it becomes an attitude. And it's very interesting.
Yeah. Well, no has multiple definitions in
Yeah.
my world. No can be a complete sentence,
Yeah. Yes.
right? Like it can be. No. No can mean no, that will never happen. No can also mean no, not right in this moment, but here's when I can do X, Y, Z, help you, whatever it might be. This is going to be an interesting conversation because I have very strong opinions when it comes to
Well, and I think
Colleen's laughing.
I think that you're 100% right. There are so many layers to the no. I think what
Yes,
we
there
end
are.
up stumbling, and they should be. No is a very powerful thing, and no is also a very long practice. No falls into self-love, and that is there's books, there's podcasts, there's things to teach you how to say no and self-love. What I think I'm getting at here is more of my boundary might be, thank you. Yeah. Yes. I'm acknowledging this project, but I'm also acknowledging, hey, this is just a really big project and I would love an additional week. That was perceived as no. That's where that leadership management crew puts the wall up and said, they're not going to hit the deadline I set. That was an attitude. That was a no. When no wasn't even in the conversation.
Right. But here's the thing is that is that person's trigger. So they're responding from a place of trigger, responding from a place of pain.
Right.
And if somebody has been at work with no boundaries and then starts to learn some of the things that you're talking about, Amanda, the people that benefited from somebody having no boundaries are going to be the ones that push back the hardest. Here's the game changer when it comes to boundaries is having the courage to back your no up. And the vulnerability piece is showing up to that conversation without controlling the outcome and not taking it personally if the other person doesn't hear all of the words being spoken.
That's a really good point too.
And
Yeah.
So hard for people.
Yeah.
It's very difficult and it takes a lot of hard inner work, healing, and creating that space and really standing firm. Its own sort of imaginary space is how I describe it. I mean, I'm one that has had to learn all of those things. I've had to learn the word no. I've had to learn how to hold boundaries. I've had to find my inner courage to stand up and say, I'm sorry. This is not acceptable.
Yeah.
Here's what's okay and it's not okay.
Yeah.
Several times. And it ruffles feathers like they're like nobody's business. And I'm now at the point where I just stand there and watch. I'm like, that's a you problem.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And I think that there goes to say, like, I think that this conversation that, that we would have there are two people in that conversation, in this case, an employee manager. We need to be in a space where managers are not just getting reactively put into roles. There's a little bit of work that goes into that because there needs to be emotional intelligence that goes into, okay, I'm recognizing the boundaries that this person is setting. How do I get to respond? And yeah, sometimes it is one of those things where you have to be a little bit of a hard-ass manager, but there's ways to respond and not, I said so, you have a bad attitude, the culture, your culture is shit. And I feel like we're getting it there are, don't get me wrong, there are some really wonderful leaders out there that know how to have those conversations, but there are very green leaders that they were put there to add to production and not add to the benefit of building this relationship with employees and finding that human touch to it.
Well, and people shy away from I don't like the word difficult conversations anymore. I call them open, honest, transparent, vulnerable. Um, the people that are shying away, they don't have the skills to show up and be in those conversations. And again, it does come from there's an aspect of EQ, there's an aspect of emotional immaturity. And, all we can do is invite those
Yeah.
people to the table of conversation. And if they don't choose to show up,
There's also an aspect of like training and learning, right? Christine and
Yes.
I were talking about this earlier today too, right? Of how many people we move into those roles, like you mentioned, right? Because productivity is important and not
Absolutely.
culture.
Yeah.
Engagement's not the most important thing to somebody. And so we move someone into this role and we don't train them.
Yeah.
And I think of the work that you do so it's like HR doula yoga. And I think of, but I think
there's a
it's
connection.
nice as like a Venn diagram, like what's the thing in that middle piece? And so much of it is you teaching people how to take back some of that control.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Very much so. Yeah. And I think if you're a person that has the opportunity to get, like you mentioned, training resource, like if you have that opportunity, where somebody is speaking with you or speaking to you with that intention of like helping you grow, helping you learn, whether that is like a vulnerable conversation. I'll nick the difficult conversation, but the vulnerable conversation, the open conversation, or even just the actual training that might come from the company itself. I think us as individuals, we have a responsibility to take that very serious. There is a person in my past that used to say that leaders were readers, but that was very interesting because what ends up happening is that there's a really beautiful decorative bookshelf, but there was no action that came from the books that were being read. So you know, yeah, I just think that you have a responsibility that if you have this gift to read, to learn, to apply, that you take it and you take it serious. And it's okay to, it's one thing to know the buzzwords and it's another thing to know the human action to it.
Well, and there's an aspect of getting up close and personal with yourself. In all of the leadership development that I do, I mean, I honestly end up spending more time dealing with their triggers and their unhealed trauma, which is standing in their way of them truly showing up as the authentic leaders they know they can be, and even more so want to be. And so, this is the thing I hear of leaders who are rigid and they have a command and control, or it's a directive, or they're not engaged, or, I mean, I can rattle off a bunch more things. And really that comes from a place of fear.
Yeah.
And it absolutely, I was asked at Christmas time by a friend of mine, what is the one thing that you see that you feel is common? And I believe the question was directed more like to my client roster. And I answered it from a place of humanity. And I said, it's fear. And control is a byproduct. Control and anxiety is a byproduct of fear. And when leaders can get out of their own way and actually, expand their awareness in terms of the reactivity, where it's coming from, and just slowing down and pausing and responding, it changes the entire energy of the culture. Because if the culture is not psychologically safe, where people can come and have these conversations around the word no and what it actually means, we're never move the needle on that piece. in organizations.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How do you support, like from an HR consulting, like if you were to sort of package your, I don't know, your brand or your, what your approach is, how do you show up for your clients?
Oh, it's a great question. My partner and I, we show up by being our true, authentic selves. I know that is, I don't know, probably, what's the word I'm looking for? Uh, Cringe, maybe? Little obvious answer. But the truth is that we show up with our true authentic selves, and our true authentic selves means having conversations. You can put a form out there and think you got enough information. It is that conversation with the client. They're telling you what they think that they want out of you, what they want out of it. And you have to really be actively listening to hear those between the line things. We had, somebody who had, hey, so and so, we would love some help with some, conversations, how to get people out of their shells. It's a very quiet environment and things like that. And I think it's just because this person is a shy person. And then the more conversation we had with him, the more we realized, no, there was definitely a dynamic that was being missed, that was being overlooked within the office because the focus was on the business and not necessarily on what was happening around him. And that's on us. That's where we show up, where we say, we hear it, but here's what we're actually seeing. What are your thoughts on this approach to it? And I think that there does come, like you were saying, Christine, I think that there's more therapy behind it. That, you think that you're getting the checklist of what you want, and then you realize, like, no, I'm going to talk to you about what you're missing and how we can go forward with that. I don't know short answers, so I hope that I answered that question.
Yeah, no, I was just looking to get a little insight into sort of, what your philosophy is around the consulting and how you're working with clients.
We just want those employees that work for those, owners, presidents, CEOs, whatever you want to call yourself. We want your employees to feel, plug for my company, iconic people. We want them to feel iconic. It really starts with them. They are doing the work. And we want to make those places joyful. And listen, I'm not naive. Work is work. And we wouldn't have podcasts and LinkedIn posts if everything was sunshine and rainbows. But if we can come in and make something a little bit more special for the employees, for their experience, then we've done our jobs, and they get to go home with a higher percentage of happiness than what they would have in a miserable gray place.
So so when I think about those two roles that you're doing, right? The HR and the doula work, I feel like, the same skill set, because we talk about squiggly careers and, right, those skills that you can take anywhere, right? How do you see those two kind of interacting, and like as you show up for your doula clients versus your HR clients?
It's really funny. I actually have started referring to myself as the doula of experience. I think I put that in my bio because that you realize where they start to intersect was that awareness of, again, I got into it because I realized how isolated I felt in pregnancy, excuse me. I felt isolated in pregnancy. When we talk about where I was in yoga, I felt isolated. I was a larger body in a small molded, yoga framed class. I felt isolated. And in work, I felt like I wanted to lead people more than the production. And not that it wasn't important. That's where I wanted to be. And I felt isolated. So where they start to intersect is where I can step in and say, hey, I've actually had this feeling before. And here's how I got out of it. And here's the therapy and the conversation that we can have. And just let me listen to you and give you suggestions. Another really big thing that I see where that intersects is that people want to have the therapy session and not necessarily want you to throw the answer at them. They just want to know that they have option. And I feel like that intersects within HR as well. It's in doulas and all of the things. It's like, I'm very scared in this moment. I'm not looking for one answer. I'm looking for compassion and a couple options. And just to know that I have somebody to come back to and I have a decision.
Right. It's that whole compassion and hope piece, right? That we all, we bring it back to Gallup often because I do a lot with Gallup, right? But Gallup talks about people need from their leaders is trust, compassion, stability, and hope. And like, yes, from an HR standpoint. And then what you were just talking about, even right from someone who's going to you as a doula or as a yoga instructor, they need that trust, compassion, and hope.
Yeah. 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 And it's I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to add to that just in terms of the relatable piece, and the connection piece. We're all wired for connection. And at the end of the day, whether it be in the corporate world, small business, pregnant, a million other things, just being seen, valued, and heard.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, that's almost the greatest gift that you can give another human is to just sit and listen.
Yeah.
Sometimes they don't want us to actually fix or problem solve. They just want to be
there's
heard.
a lot of power in just saying, me as a support person, listening to someone and saying, yes, this sucks. I get it.
Yeah.
That is so powerful. I've had somebody say it to me when I was going through my stuff, and it was so refreshing to not have someone problem solve for me, or what you could have done, or just saying, yes, this sucks. And it gives me a moment to be like, yeah, it does. It just really does. And then I can move. But yeah.
When I dropped my daughter off at college, it was the dean of students at the college who, the last words, they had this like, we're here as the umbrella for your student, which I thought was kind of a cute little thing. And they gave us all umbrellas as we walked out. But the
That's
last
cute.
words is right? It was so cute. I was like, oh, that's so smart. But the last words he said to us was, whenever your kid calls you, I want you to start every conversation with, do you need my advice or do you just need me to listen? Right? Do you need me to do the flex moment or do you need my advice? And I have to stop myself, like with clients, with kids, with my husband, right? So often I have to get that question in my brain to remember to ask people and say, right, do you just need to bitch and moan about what happened? Do you need me to just be able to say, that sucks, I'm so sorry, right? Or do you want me to problem solve with you?
Yes, I've actually adopted that in my conversations with my sister and my husband. My husband actually still works for the company that I came from. And so if he's having a conversation and I can feel that maybe it's more of a venti situation, I'm like, do you want me to listen, or did you want me to reply as a wife or a former leader in that company? How do you want me to reply? And it's funny because even asking that question as the receiver, you stop for a minute and you're like, oh, what do I want?
Yeah. Well, and you're asking them to actually get up close and personal with their needs.
I love it. Yes. Yes.
And anger, frustration, anger, resentment, those emotions, if they show up 99% of the time, it's a reflection of a need not being met. And people are like, I don't even know what my needs are. And then let's shift it into corporate or into the business world. You get people who are like, I'm career unhappy. And it's like, well, let's unpack that. And it comes down to the fact that they're not communicating their needs to their leader, and vice versa. Leaders aren't actually getting to know their people and saying, what do you need? How can I support?
Yeah.
So it's like this cycle. So I love that. And it's a way of, shifting ownership rather than feeling like we always have to throw spaghetti on the wall and hope it sticks. It's like, maybe they need this, maybe they need that. My sister, actually, I have to say, a little bit of growth. She was having an issue over something, and I was not even paying attention to the fact that I was just spouting off solutions. I was like, well, what about this? What about that? And she goes, you know what? Just need you to stop. She's like, "Thank you very much, but I'll just stop." And I was like, "Okay." And then I went and played with kinetic sand with her son with my nephew on the floor. I was like, "I'm better needed over here." And just left her to deal with her own shit. But that's the thing, right? Like, it's really learning about what is it that I need and how do I communicate that. So it's, such a powerful shift that we can make.
Highly recommend it.
Well, as we move to close here, are your words of wisdom that you would love to share out to the world of our listeners?
Be a forever student, whatever that means. Don't ever
Growth mindset.
Oh my gosh, don't ever set the ceiling. Just be a forever student. There are so many things out there to learn. There are so many people that you can talk to, learn from, grow from. And if you think you know it all, you are missing the most beautiful things. That is I say it when I teach workshops. When I'm standing in front of people teaching them something, I let them know up front, I am a forever student. I do not have all the answers. You're going to ask me a question that I'm going to have to research, and I'm going to love doing it.
Love it. That's great advice. Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amanda. This has been so much fun today. So now we move into our kind of lightning round questions. I would say these are our no overthinking, go with your gut, right? Our fun stuff.
Okay.
All right. You also have 2 kids. So I'm always, when I ask this question, I'm always like, the answer could be Bluey or it could be something else. But, what are you currently watching or streaming on TV right now?
I am obsessed with Amy Poehler's Good Hang podcast. I know you said, but that is what I am binging. It is the dose of happiness, serotonin that you need. It is so, like, she hones in on the importance of, friendship and connection. And there's not a bad episode out there. And that is what I am obsessed with right now.
And she's so funny, right? Like, it's like, you can't. At one point, I'm much better than I used to be, but I used to be really scared of plane rides. And at one point, a friend was like, you just need to listen to something really funny when you're on the plane, because if you're laughing, you can't be scared. You can't be mad. You can't be mad. Like, one of all the negative emotions if you're laughing. So I always picture myself sitting on airplanes, like, laughing hysterically and everyone thinking I'm, a complete weirdo as I'm, laughing with tears running down my face.
And if you are a fan of her, if you do enjoy her, you will be laughing with tears on your face. I look like a crazy person mowing the lawn, like, laughing to myself.
I'll add it to that. All right. Which emoji do you use the most?
The melting face emoji. It just speaks volume.
Yes. 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 All right. If you were to get another tattoo, because I feel like I can see some on your arm there, what would it be?
I am a little bit obsessed with B. Arthur, and I would love to get a B. Arthur tattoo on the inside of my arm.
Oh my God, I love it. I
amazing.
Didn't know that there were going to be B. Arthur stamps that came out here in the US. And I happened to go to the post office the day they launched. And I'm like, why is there a line at the post office? Like, we're a little town in the middle of nowhere. And it was all these people online to get B. Arthur stamps. And I just used my last ones last week. And I was so sad because they don't have them anymore.
Thank you for telling me. I didn't know. I saw Betty White, and I love her.
Yeah, they're still available, but just not at my post office. So,
well, I think I have something I have to do after this then.
You know where you're going. All right. And our last question is, do you have a book recommendation for our listeners? Like, what's a book that either fiction or nonfiction that you've loved?
So, I believe in some spaces. It's a little he's a controversial writer, but TJ Klune, he has 2 books, The Cerulean Sea and Beyond, Somewhere Beyond the Sea. It is the most, beautiful, heartwarming story of, magical children and orphanages, and it is so inclusive and beautiful, and there is a quote on the back for a review saying it's like a big, warm, gay hug, and that's exactly what it is. I both books, and I am very picky on my 5 stars. I only give them away sometimes. Those 2 books are my favorite right now, and I just finished the second one, and I so good.
I
Excellent.
love it. Oh, well, add that to my to be read list.
Yes,
Please,
me too.
please. Oh, so wonderful.
Well, thank you so much for being our guest today, Amanda. Thanks for like saying yes to, a stranger reaching out to you on LinkedIn. If our listeners want to find you, right? If they want to kind of hear about your doula services or your HR services, where do they find you?
So I am on Instagram with Lovely Day Yoga. That's where you can get all my yoga stuff. And I am on LinkedIn. My partner and I have Iconic People. We are starting to get into the social media. So if you follow me on LinkedIn, you'll start to see a couple things popping up.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for this invite. This was beautiful and amazing. And I'm glad I said yes too.
The power of yes.
Yeah, this is like if you're listening right now, say yes to something today, right? Whatever the next thing someone asks you to do today, today is your day to say yes. So, let us know what you said yes to. Drop it in our comments on LinkedIn, right? We're on Instagram, LinkedIn, or TikTok. That's where Embrace the Squiggle is all about, showing up for the messy, non-linear parts of our careers and figuring it all out together. Is it time for you to add a little squiggle to your career? Join us every week to hear from another guest talk about how they embrace the squiggle.
Subscribe now and find your inspiration.